What's up, crew? Welcome to Filming in Progress, the show that takes you backstage into the world of local businesses and the people who make them shine. Joining me today are Jamie and Lisa of the Orenda Society, a nonprofit rooted in love, growth, and real conversations that help youth rise to their full potential. Jamie and Lisa, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Where are we?
We are at the Orenda Society studio in Okotoks, Alberta.
Yeah.
Our home base.
How long have you been in this space?
Oh gosh.
Almost 4 years.
I was gonna say 5, so I'm off.
Yeah.
4 years, 4 awesome years with restorative sports therapy.
Love it.
Our community partner.
Tell me more.
They have supported us and helped grow our space, and we're just very thankful to be here.
4 or 5 years puts us right at the beginning of COVID time.
Exactly.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Good math.
Tell me about that experience. I mean, you moved into a new space. You were early in the business, I believe.
Yeah, it was actually
Right.
November.
Right
and then
before COVID hit,
COVID
yeah.
was March, I believe, and we were rolling in the space. All of our programs were sold out, waitlisted. Our teachers were fully functioning in the space. And we were basically told that
Hard stop.
Yeah, hard stop. Although, however, we pivoted.
Yeah.
So we put all of our classes online for the time being, and we delivered, I think, over 150 care packages to all of our students that were going to be online with us. So like journals and worksheets and gifts so that we can sit together online. And I feel like it was such a pivotal time because conversations that typically weren't open at home, or parents were moving through things, different challenges in COVID, we were able to have open dialogue on our online platform with the youth that we were mentoring in our group facilitation. So that was really, really important for us to move forward. And then we...
That was a special time. I actually kind of forgot about that. But what a blessing to actually have access and still work with our youth. And then...
there was a lot of things that happened during that time too. It was like the Black Lives Matter movement. So there was a lot of questions that the youth that we were working with had. So we were able to bring in different speakers and other people to support these conversations for them during this time at home. And then we were digging around a little bit, and we really wanted to get connection, and we knew the importance of being together in group facilitation. Online is awesome, but for us, connection and energy is really important. So we applied, and we received a government exemption where we could come back together in our space during COVID. So obviously with the restrictions, following all of the protocols like masking and masks or mats separated, we had our classes back rolling like within 3 months.
Yeah, which was unbelievable because it was the kids, it was something that was very needed at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, needed all the time, but at that moment, it was really great to run the programs and be surrounded by people and have those conversations and see each other face to face.
Absolutely. Was it complicated? I mean, because you obviously started in person and then having to shift to this online, at least for the time being until you had your exemption. Was it complicated to continue to kind of foster the same community or level of community and connection online? What did that challenge look like?
It was honestly a blast. I loved it. It was actually really fun. I was obviously a little bit resistant to it at first because I love being with people, but we made it so fun. And the kids, that is what makes youth so amazing. They roll with it, and they were into it, and they really felt they made like this own little community online, and it was really a fun time. We did like these little scavenger hunts, and we had such great conversations, and we did our breath work, and we practiced yoga, and it was actually really fun.
I felt like I gave them an outlet while they were at home, like
Yes.
something that they knew was going to be their own time to come in to do. So that was really good. I mean, obviously they were eager to come back to session and be together or be in front of each other and sit with each other. Although, it wasn't this like lingering, like it wasn't horrible. It actually worked out really well. And to be online, in Orenda, we follow agreements. So every class is based on a set of agreements that the youth in our programs facilitate. So same thing online. They follow a set of agreements. They have a lot of integrity, the youth that come to our space. So they did the same thing online.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
It's actually cool that you're bringing this back to our attention, because I haven't really thought about it. I don't know if I just like kind of black that out in my mind, but
yeah, remember like dropping little care packages off at people's fences?
We did. And, yeah, we drove all over the city.
Yeah.
To connect with our youth, and we're like, here you go, we'll see you online.
I think it speaks volumes to the fact that, like, to the community that you do have and the community that you build, because there was so many complexities for other businesses and other nonprofits and that sort of thing that didn't feel as optimistic as you did about that experience. It was more complicated for them to build community or feel connected through Zoom calls and that sort of thing. So I'm curious, do you think it's an individual thing, or do you think it's a facilitated thing? When if individuals feel more connected or can feel connected virtually, or kind of need that in-person facilitation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think both.
I think a little bit of both too.
I think it's how you show up as a facilitator and what your intention is, and if you have the intuition to be able to pivot and to, develop a program online that you feel engaged with the youth or the women or men that are stepping into these programs, and also, I feel like majority of the people that we serve do want to be in group facilitation, but there are people who feel more comfortable in Zoom. So I feel like, that's a challenging question, because I feel like it's both, kind of.
It is.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It is a little bit of both. I don't know. I lean towards more individual, but it is a bit of both for sure.
That makes sense, yeah. How did this all come about? What was the founding idea for Orenda?
I think there was multiple founding ideas.
It's grown and morphed and a lot over the years.
Yeah. So Orenda is more of what Orenda is now than it ever has been, I believe. Although all of the stepping stones together were vital.
100%.
Right?
Yes.
We knew that there was something else that youth needed, and it wasn't an or, it was an and, something with sports, something with the stuff that they were already dealing with in their lives. And we wanted it to be, it started with really just yoga movement.
It was really mindfulness and yoga.
Yeah.
Yes. That's where we started.
And it was an opportunity for youth to just be able to take a pause, to breathe, to connect to their bodies, to connect to themselves without all of the pressures and the questions that were laid on top of them every single day. And really to discover more about who they were and what they wanted, and that they were worthy already, that they didn't have to perform to be worthy. All of those things are extras. Those things are really great to have in your life, but you're born worthy, you're capable, you have everything you need inside of you. So we really wanted to develop programs and camps that influence them in that direction so that they could be in community and feel confident. So that's kind of how it started, but I feel like both of us have our own reasons why we do what we do. Yeah.
And just connecting youth back to who they are, really, and everything that they have within them, because it's there. We just forget sometimes. All of us do. Yeah.
Was it a specific experience for either of you, like your individual motivations to kind of build Orenda, or was it just kind of, observation over time?
For me, and I always share with the youth that I am leading, I was bullied a lot, and that didn't feel good. And if I would have had access to even this language and the things that we do in Orenda, I think I would have felt different. I wouldn't have gone home and I wouldn't have cried every day, and I would have had tools to just, navigate through what I was feeling, and had a place to express how I was feeling in that time. That personally, that's how I started working with youth. That's kind of what got me into it. And then, yeah, it's really grown. And Jamie comes from her own experience too.
Yeah, for me, my mom was a teenage mom. So my mom had me pregnant at 15 and had me at 16, and then I had other siblings after. My mom, I know for sure, did the best she could with what she had and the environment that we lived in, although what she was giving me and what she was providing just wasn't enough for what I needed as a teenager or as a kid. So I was really, really fortunate to have so many healthy attachments outside of my family that supported who I wanted to be and who saw something in me. So, different coaches or different family friends helped me get to university or lend me a hand or, let me travel with them, all different type of things, and people that I really trusted. So as I got older, I realized that was something that I wanted to do, or who I wanted to be to other people, was the same idea of that healthy attachment, or the mentor that could provide those spaces for other people to be seen, maybe when they're not given those opportunities when they're younger, because, it was really important for me not to be a victim of my environment. Yes, I have privilege and all of those sort of things based on what I was born into, although it still was a challenging environment. So with the people that played those vital roles, I decided that I wanted to be a teacher, and then I decided that I didn't really want to teach into the schools because I wanted to break a little bit of rules.
Also me. Didn't want it to be so structured.
Yeah. And then I worked in group homes for a really long time, and that was sort of the idea that, I felt like every kid or youth could sit together in different ways and really see each other and be able to learn from each other. It wasn't dependent on your environment or where you came from. You still had that power inside of you to be able to move forward if you wanted it. And if you had the confidence to ask for support, or if someone gave you that break. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like, when the two of you were experiencing this in your early days, there were similar resources to what you've built, or there was a need, and that's why you've built Orenda?
I did not feel that.
Me either. Mm-hmm. Nothing like that, other than the outlet would have been like sports for me.
Yeah, it was dance for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Those are two very unique stories, right? But they come together with a similar message and a similar need for what needs to exist out there for youth. The youth that come into your programs these days, do they all come from different walks of life, different backgrounds, that sort of thing? Give me some insight as to who these youth are and why they're coming to you.
Oh, there's youth from all different demographics, different races, different places in the city, different privileges.
From rural
education backgrounds, yeah. We'll have youth who have really strong foundations at home, but need somebody else to have a conversation with. We have youth who might struggle at home and are coming here for that attachment or that support. Youth who need a sponsorship, so come to our programs for free. Families that their kids come here and they pay for other kids to come. So it's a very wide range. Mm-hmm. Of people sitting together. Mm-hmm. It's really just about showing up in the human experience and knowing that we're all so similar, mm-hmm. right? We just walk a different path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was that anticipated when you started? Did you know, or did you have kind of a profile of you were like, oh, this is the type of person or the type of individual that's going to come, and were you pleasantly surprised along the way, or did you know that it was always going to be all these different walks of life?
I think I just knew. I feel like who was led to this space was meant to be here. Mm. We always say to everyone that comes to our space, like, you're here for a reason. There's a reason why you're here.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people had this idea that it was all about mental health and it was about youth at risk, but isn't everybody at risk? Doesn't everybody have some sort of mental health or something that they can be relatable with? Mm-hmm. And if not, then what a profound experience to be a leader. And if everything's so great going on in your life right now, then you have space to hold for somebody else that might not be. So exactly. I think that's just how we saw it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well said. Thanks. Yeah.
Do you see when what is kind of the graduation look like? You know, when somebody's completed a program, is it like, do they come back? Are they maybe facilitators or teachers in their own way? What does that look like?
Oh, love this question.
Yeah, and it looks different for a lot of people.
It does,
but like
it does.
we call them our OGs.
Yeah, they're Orenda OGs.
You know, there's been youth who have started here in like grade 6 or grade 7 when they were 12, maybe even some younger.
Some 8.
And some have, you know, come to programs for 7 years and they are graduating grade 12. And a lot of them take the teacher training and become mentors or facilitators themselves. So it's really, really exciting to see them step into the role and us step back a little bit. And they kind of lead the way now.
They do. They come out into community with us. They do speaking engagements. They lead our summer camps. It's awesome. Yeah, we're very proud of them.
Of course. It's kind of like a full circle environment, right? Like once you see the power of the community that you're building here, then I would imagine they want to be part of it in the future as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and it's not actually just the youth. We have a ton of women who come through our women's programs and also become teachers, and men.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 3 men. 3 men have become teachers.
Yeah.
So started with youth, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then, I mean, I've seen that you've expanded far beyond that. I see that you do corporate and you do mentorship and that sort of thing as well. Tell me about how these extra, you know, these additional services or resources maybe came about.
Do you want to know why? Because I love this. I think it's the coolest. So our youth were coming to our space. Mm-hmm. They were working with us, then going home and bringing what they had done in the Orenda space to home. And the parents kept coming to us and they're like, what's going on here? Yeah. Like our kid is like, what is happening? Like we're seeing these shifts and transformations and we're like, yeah. And then the parents were like, we want this work. What are you doing? We want to be involved in this. How do we do this? Mm-hmm. Which is great because then that's like the whole family unit, right? And that's when you're creating that change in those like generational patterns. So yeah, that's how it started. It was legit. The parents were coming to us being like, what's happening and how can we be a part of this?
Yeah, we're like, okay, let's do Orenda Women.
Yep.
And let's see what happens. And the Orenda Women's been happening for 3 years now. And now we have a large immersion every single year.
And then the wives were like, how can we get our husbands doing this? Yeah. And we were like, okay. So it's really like...
And then the grandmas know that. I'm just kidding. Well, some grandmas actually, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, really, and then so like, and then the boys program started and
And then we saw a really big need with teams. That's been a huge part of Orenda actually that we don't talk about that often, but we probably see over 50 teams here a year. Mm-hmm. And we
lots of team building.
Yeah, we're building.
And corporate too. Yeah. We also go downtown and
building just, you know, culture that feels safe and brave to be in.
And it's the brave spaces.
Absolutely. Is the core of all of these different programs the same, similar? Do you tweak it depending on who your audience is? What does that look like?
I would say the curriculum, like the framework is very similar based on our values, based on our, you know, our 3 ways of showing up, show up, open up, rise up. Everything's basically based on that framework, but depending on who we're sitting with, we will tweak it based on what they need. And that is something that's really unique about what we do is we often will have, you know, meetings with the coaches or meetings with the principals to sit down and be like, what do you feel? How can we best serve your school? And what are you seeing that might need a little bit of a shift? Mm-hmm. And then we'll tailor something that's more unique to that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And developmentally appropriate for the age as well.
Right.
But a lot of love and intention goes into creating a specific curriculum, for sure. Yeah. A lot of our energy goes into that.
Yeah. Were the 2 of you the original, forgive my terminology if I'm incorrect here, but teachers or like facilitators, or how did that come about?
Facilitators, yeah.
I just creepily started showing up.
Like I would say that.
I did, kind of.
True. Okay, that
seriously.
Is true. Everyone kind of did.
Okay, tell the story.
Go ahead, you tell a story.
Yeah, so some kind of weird universe thing. I was wanting to not I had kids, I taught, then I had kids. I felt called to, get back to working with youth. And so in my mind, I wanted to create something based around wellness, empowering youth, not structured school environment. So I was thinking about this. I went and got something at Lululemon. I turned to leave the store, this like card floated up, and it was this company called Empower Mind, because we used to be called Empower Mind. And it like landed on my bag, and I was like, wow, this is nuts. This is exactly what I want to create and like put out into the world. So I'm like, I'm gonna call these ladies. Anyways, so it kind of went from there. They were about to roll into their summer camp, and I just was like, I just started showing up every day, and they were like, who is this chick?
Not really.
But it was Jamie. It was Jamie and Heather, and they obviously you can speak to how you guys got it rolling, but
yeah, just the idea, we just had the same vision that there needed to be something else for kids. And it started with a summer camp at Cabin Farms. And honestly, there was 6 kids that showed up the first year. 4 of them were ours. So we paid ourselves childcare. Or we paid for our kids to be there, but whatever else it was crazy. And then we kind of stuck with the idea, knew that still felt that there was something there. And then the year after there was 24 kids, and then the year after there was 48, and it just so on and so on. But, when Lisa landed into, at the time it was Empower Mind, and Lisa's been a pivotal part of changing Empower Mind to Orenda and to what it is now, and has came on as a partner. So yeah, it's been a really big growth for us and really important changes. So, yeah.
How do you go about sourcing or finding the right people to work with youth? Obviously, it's sensitive. It's so important to have the right person or the right people involved. What does that process look like for you?
Well, it's evolved over the years, I would say. And yeah, for a long time, it was just Lisa and I teaching almost every single class. So that goes back to your original question. Yeah, Lisa's always taught the younger girls. I always taught the older girls. And, honestly, it was sitting with people in the beginning and women coming to our classes, or noticing different people in our community, and people who kept being called to reach out to us and having conversations and realizing like, wow, these people are powerful. These people are leading with their heart. They're extremely passionate, and just sitting with them and wondering if they have the capacity, and lots of conversations. And then honestly, sometimes you just have like, I don't know, it took me 6 years to decide that someone else was going to sit with so I could do more of the business stuff or the organizational, structural, policy stuff, and have someone else come and sit. But, I don't know, like you have a good feeling.
it's definitely a feeling.
Yeah.
Which we say a lot at Orenda. It's that inner knowing and that inner feeling.
But there are some credentials that go along with it. I'm not talking about credentials like education, but there has to be some life experience or the want and the drive behind it, because let's face it, this isn't your big break, right? So there has to be, maybe it is, but it has to be it has to be something that you're passionate in and you feel a calling to do.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of youth that depend on you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, obviously, there's a check and balance to make sure that the people are the right fit. But I think that's so important, the leaning into the feeling of it, right? Is this person, does it feel like the right fit? Because I really think, intuition probably plays a huge role.
It does. And then, like we mentioned before, it's a lot of our OGs that are getting involved with this work and leading.
Oh, and that's so easy, because you're like,
Well, they've been there, they've sat in the circle, they've done the hard work, they're in it.
Which makes them the perfect facilitator for the
100%.
Yeah, love it. When you first started and the two of you were teaching, was there ever any like imposter syndrome or anything like that, where you felt maybe I'm not the right fit to be the one leading these youth?
Still sometimes,
we're humans, 100%.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Still get in our heads all the time. Maybe like this morning or yesterday when we were talking about sitting down, talking about Orenda. Yes.
How do you handle that?
I think we're really honest. We talk a lot to each other. We
do.
tell each other the truth about things that are either happening in our lives or within the organization. We brainstorm a lot. We breath work. A lot of the things that we teach, movement, journaling, expressive work, all of those sort of things really help. And then leaning into what is the truth. And honestly, this vision is bigger than us. It is not about us. The service work that we do, whether we're asking for money, when we're asking for support, sponsorships, any of those sort of things, it's coming back to us. And it's like, doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter what you sound like. This isn't even about you. This is about the youth that we're serving. So the more that we come back to our why and our what, I feel like that is so much more empowering than sitting in the shit of like, who am I to do this, right?
It's getting grounded in the why we do this.
It's really interesting because the reason or the way that you're able to get out of that space or headspace or whatever it may be is by practicing what you teach, really, right?
Well, and we say it all the time. We're like, we're right there with them. We are human too. We need to navigate and move through things too. So we need those tools just as much.
We also made a promise that no matter what we taught, whether it was youth or adults, that our integrations or immersions and our programs or sessions, whatever it is, that we would always do it first.
Yeah.
Like we won't go and teach something that we haven't experienced or that we haven't practiced ourselves. As uncomfortable it can be when you're sitting in like a group of 4 doing it all, but
when we're like getting gritty with it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a multifold kind of check, right? It's quality assurance, making sure that your product is great, and it's also, ensuring that you believe you can further refine it as you go through it, and you further believe in its importance and that sort of thing. Did either of you anticipate becoming entrepreneurs before you had started?
No, I don't think I did. No.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so either. Like, especially when I was younger, I wasn't on the pathway of, being an entrepreneur or running an organization. Definitely more of, working maybe in a school system. But it's interesting because I don't really see how that would have ever worked for me.
Well, and like when you say that, I'm like, wait, am I an entrepreneur? I don't really feel like an entrepreneur. I'm in service of people. That's kind of how I see it. But I guess you are correct. Like, honestly, I don't even like think about that. It's just being in service of, serving others, helping others navigate all the things that we go through as humans, the human experience, and sitting there with them in that. So it kind of hits different when you're like, hey, you're an entrepreneur. Does that not? It feels different for me.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that.
Right?
Right? It doesn't feel as heavy as it can sound like being an entrepreneur or owning a business, although it can get really heavy sometimes running this organization as well. There's a lot of stuff that just the two of us do. And we have to learn a lot pretty quickly, especially like we didn't go to school to run an organization. So here we are growing and learning
and
every
doing
single
everything.
day. Yeah.
The marketing, like you have to do it all, especially when you're a grassroots organization.
Yeah. With not a lot of funding.
With no funding.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. Yet. No funding yet.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating, and I really love that you said, you don't even feel like an entrepreneur because you're just serving, you're just being of service. And I think it's an unfortunate story that, a lot of individuals, they start a business because of a passion or because of a significant why or whatever that may be for them. And then they get caught up in all of the stuff that isn't necessarily specifically doing what they started to do, right? And I love that it's clear that the two of you haven't forgotten about that, and that doesn't what you have to do for the business or the organization doesn't take away from the impact that you're having on the ground.
I mean, to be completely honest, and maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but yeah, we do get attached sometimes to the stuff that doesn't matter. But that's the great thing about Jay and I, is that I can be like, hey, or she'll be like, hey. You know, we can kind of see when it's happening and we can call each other out on it.
Yeah, and when, there's lots of times where when we do get a grant, or one of our girls graduates or whatever it is, and we're celebrating.
Yeah.
We're like, this is
and
it.
This is why we do what we do.
Yeah, all the time. We remind each other of that quite often, or like whatever happens, like when we'll go back to teaching, we're like, yes, that felt so good.
Yes.
Yeah, it's still exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, you have constant reminders of why you do it, even if you're tied up with other things, right? What does the dynamic between the two of you look like? Obviously, it's very complicated running an organization, business, et cetera. Also, I can, just being with you for the past hour and a half, being great friends as well. But sometimes there's lines, and you have to draw maybe not boundaries, but how do you facilitate the communication between the two of you and ensure that it's always productive, or maybe not on the side as well, right?
We are really honest.
Yeah.
I think we are really honest with each other.
We are honest.
And we try to be really happy for each other too.
Yes.
And sometimes that, obviously when one person's doing something and the other person's traveling.
I travel a lot. And she's like, yo, need some help here.
But also just knowing
Jamie.
like I don't know, it always comes, like we're good.
Just supporting each other.
Yeah, we're always really,
supporting each other.
I don't know how to explain it, but we've always just been.
And sometimes, I do think, to that question, I think, yes, we are very good friends and we're very close. But it's almost, running this, sometimes our friendship almost kind of has to take a back seat. Like, we don't always get to be like, hey, like, how was your day today? Because we just get right to what we need to talk about. Because we are both a mom of 3 kids and a busy family life. And so I do feel sometimes that, like, our personal relationship sometimes gets put on the back burner. But at the same time, it's like, she's my girl. I know she's there, right?
Yeah, we take time out for each other. We've been more intentional with that, of like, let's have a friend date, or, let's hang out as a family, or whatever that looks like,
and
versus
no Orenda talk.
No work talk.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
What does Orenda mean? Where did the name come from?
Here we go. Here's that question.
Okay. Well, the name is an Iroquois meaning, and it means that once you empower yourselves, or you take ownership of yourself, then you have this opportunity to empower your community. So it's really about filling your cup, doing what you need to do for you, so that you can give back to the community, or give back to others and empower others.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yep, lighten that fire within, and then really you just go, and it's that ripple effect out in the world.
I'm curious, when you're in service of others, and that's what you do. It can likely be easy to forget to do that for yourself, to take care of yourself. So when you're how do the two of you ensure that you're taken care of, and in turn able to show up to the best of your ability for everybody else that you need to?
Try to sleep. Honestly, like, sleeping is really important, and doing the things that are important to you still. So daily movement, I would say, is really important for both of us.
Yeah.
Meditation, still trying to do those things, and then having some boundaries around when to turn things off and to connect to the people, like our families and friends, and having, time to have fun and be outside. I think also I don't know, I'm speaking for both of us, but we have a lot of the same values. So being outside as well, and like connecting to nature, can really fill us both up, whether it's together or separately.
Just being very intentional.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes it also, I think that's the beauty of our relationship too. And we can be like, hey, leave it, go do something. Like, no one is ever
get
like,
off your phone.
No one is ever like,
stop texting
I think,
me
we do the opposite. We're not like, can you please get that done right now? Hurry up. Like, we're more like, okay, take a break then. or go enjoy that, get it done later. I didn't realize you were up to that. Like, I think we have a lot of respect for each other in that sense as well. Because we trust each other and we know that ultimately it's getting done.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right.
Love it. What is the hardest part about what you do at Orenda?
Funding.
Yeah, I would say
Support.
when we're talking about like the back end of the organization, it would be learning and having the funding and the support to be able to move forward. But when we're working in the front line, it can be, not taking stuff home with you, not wondering what's happening in different situations, and knowing that you can only do what you can do in the space and showing up ethically the best that you can. And just knowing that you did the best you can with whatever information you were able to share or hold space for that day. And sometimes it can be heartbreaking with some of the things our youth are going through, or the people that we're serving, and some of their, challenges that they might be facing when we see them. So it can be hard not to carry that or feel activated by some of their experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there tools that you use to kind of maybe ensure that you're not carrying the weight of other individuals when, obviously there's times where you need to, and that's what you're in service for. But also, what is that, I guess a bit broader question is, what does that segregation look like? How do you ensure that you're living your own life rather than through these individuals or feeling all of their weight as well?
I think support as well. So like therapy or talking to somebody about the things that you're not naming it, but high level talking about the things that you might be experiencing, or if they are activating you from a different past experience, that can be really important to understanding like where that's coming from, so you're not relating it to your own experience. I know compartmentalizing isn't the best thing, but when you're in, nursing, doctors, psychology, all of those sort of things, it's really important to be able to compartmentalize things. Is like, if I take this home with me, I really am not in service of others because now I'm depleted from this conversation or from this situation. So the more that we can understand that compassion is holding space for someone and understanding that every human suffers in some sort of capacity, but empathy is carrying it and relating to it. So really defining the difference between what compassion is empathy in, and when we can sit in compassion, when we can sit in breath, in silence, and hold space for people without the questions, all of those sort of things, it's much easier. I mean, we do a lot of breath work, we shake out, we yell, we do, you name it, we do it to get rid of it. Because it's not ours, and if it became ours, we wouldn't be able to have this space for others.
Yeah. And it's having a whole, I was gonna say shit ton. I'll just say shit ton. A whole shit ton of awareness. Really.
Yeah.
It's having a lot of awareness and having each other and other people that we can connect to and be like, hey, just having that, we can, debrief and be like, hey, I'm feeling this way.
And I feel like we're really strong in our support system, like knowing what like if it's out of our scope, what resources we call on, and different relationships that we have to support youth in our space, as well as to support ourselves.
You said awareness, and I really love that. And I think that's something that unfortunately, well, maybe not as lacking, but I mean, it's something that everybody can be more of, right? And can embrace a little bit more of. And I'm sure that's a result of kind of the teaching that you do here. What are some ways that people can kind of prompt themselves to become more aware, if there's any tips and tricks or anything like that?
Well, sorry, we just had this conversation last week.
Yeah, and we just did a big teacher training. So one of the things that we always say to parents and to our teachers is like the defeating question of why, right? Why? And the more that we ask why, the more that we feel defeated or defensive in our conversations or how we feel about ourselves. So we always say the biggest, easiest way to find self-awareness is through what? What can I do? What can I control? What situation is this? Where is this happening multiple times in my life? All of those sort of things. So we feel like the question what is such a pivotal part of self-awareness.
I love that.
Yeah.
Perfect timing too. You mentioned funding is one of the biggest complexities. I'm curious, what would more funding allow you to do, and what does your current funding structure look like?
Well, currently, because we're not fully a charitable organization, we're on the we're very close. It's happening.
Close, yeah.
So right now we're a non-for-profit society, so it's very challenging for us to be able to have corporate funding due to like a tax receipt if it's not based for marketing. So we've been very fortunate to have some community sponsors. So Sheep River Health Trust supports us. 100 Women Who Care support us. And then some government grants as well. And then like our community has been supportive.
A lot of our parents, where their youth have been in our space, they're also very supportive.
So that, and then we do have, right now we have a charge for our program, so that helps pay our overhead and those sort of things, as well as the sponsorships and the grants usually pay for some sort of project that we're doing, or free programming, or opportunities for kids to come to our space who might not have the means to do that right now. As for funding, what it would do is create a lot more capacity for Lisa and I to be able to have a salary and to be able to do all of the things that we want to continue doing, and have a bigger team to be able to help us with the organization as it's growing.
And a bigger reach.
Yeah.
I imagine, well, interestingly, you mentioned earlier that, the awareness, you went from 6 to 24 to 48, I believe you said. So how is that awareness, that reach currently being spread?
Well, go ahead.
Nope.
Me? Okay. Right now, it's, in the Okotoks community, we're feeling really fortunate to be, I think, more known every single year, and having a lot of kids come into our space. We're starting to, and hopefully next year, one of our goals is to be in schools more. So that will bring a broader reach for us, as well as we're looking to be more prominent in Calgary, where we have a teacher in Ponoka. We're looking to expand to Lethbridge and Sylvan Lake. So we're growing into more rural Alberta to be able to reach more youth. Yeah.
Awesome.
Lots of peeps reach out and ask for us to be in the city, and we're coming.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, you're really not that far.
No, I know. Yeah. And so many people from Calgary come. They make the trek because they just love what we do and how their kids go home and show up at home. So.
It's interesting because you're speaking to, I'm speaking specifically about the youth programs when I say this, but the people that are actually taking the programs are obviously the youth, but it's also the parents that are kind of drawn to the program as well. So my question is, I guess who you're resonating with both, but is it typically kind of the student or the child that's reaching out to their parents and saying, hey, I really want to do this, or is it typically the parent that's saying, hey, I want you to do this?
Typically the parent. Yeah. And it can be challenging to get your kid into a space where it can feel really unfamiliar, and it's not an athletic space or opportunity. And we often will offer like a 3-class rule. So try it for 3 classes, and I would say we have a 90% success rate. So you usually stay for longer, maybe more. Yeah. Yeah, I was just being a little humble.
Give us a couple classes here.
Yeah. That age range is pretty interesting too, right? Because I would imagine there's a bit of maybe natural resistance or like the cool factor, or does that not really exist?
Maybe.
Well, it depends.
The teens.
Maybe with the teens, but once they land into this space, again, I feel like that just kind of melts away.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's actually so hard to explain what happens in the space. Like a lot of that stuff just leaves.
We always say, if you know, you know. Because we do say a lot that Orenda is a feeling, and we're trying to move away from that. But that's actually what feels right, is because it is a feeling. People who've been through our program can describe that feeling.
It's like being seen.
And the youth too.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to be seen. Like, let's face it, like you can have a really, really great parents, But in our society right now, parenting is full on. We do a really, really good job of loving our kids, providing a roof and food, being their taxi drivers, getting them from A to B. And if we're not driving in the car with them, it can be challenging to find time for conversations when you're at home, getting them prepped for the next day.
Right.
Like the list goes on and on.
And we say this because we're parents too.
And really great parents do an amazing job of keeping their kids safe, loved, all of those sort of things, but sometimes we fall short on the opportunity to see and hear our kids. So that's where we get to help out. We get to provide a little bit more space for them to be seen and heard, but also the confidence to ask for support at home and be like, hey, I just need to have this conversation with you, because sometimes parents don't even see that. They don't even recognize that their kids need it. And it's not a fault, it's just part of being human. It's part of us also having stuff. Just because you're a mom or a dad doesn't mean you don't have challenges or you're not going through something as well that your kids might not be aware of. So it's providing that opportunity for, families to come together to actually talk about what they need from each other and what's working well and what's not. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And youth are sponges, right? They, like you said, they could be picking up on things at home or whatever the case may be. And I think that's so true in expressing those in different ways, maybe not indirectly, right? Talk to me about mentorship. So was that originally, has it always, at the beginning it was always groups, right? And then now you do mentorship as well. Is that one-on-one?
Yeah.
Yep. We do offer that as well.
Yeah. So mentorships, in our groups, we started to see that different people could probably benefit for more one-on-one opportunity, whether it was because they needed more or because, like, in two different ways. They needed more because they were operating in a high level sort of capacity, or they needed more because they just weren't given what they needed at home. So one-on-one started to evolve in with the idea that, outside of group facilitation, you would work with a mentor to be able to navigate whatever it was that you might not have had the full attention for in an hour. And those have really evolved into being, now we're running like smaller group facilitations where it's just like 4 people in a session, whether it's women or girls, and they last around 6 months, or it's one-on-one. And yeah, I would say they're huge shifts in short periods of time. And usually they'll be part of group, or they'll end up going to group. And sometimes mentorship will start because they might not have the confidence to be in group facilitation, but that's the goal, is to be in community, right? Not to be segregated or alone. So when we start one-on-one, it can be kind of an initial buy-in sometimes for parents, for their kids to do one-on-one with us, gain sort of trust in a relationship and the confidence to be able to sit into a group session.
And it's really, I find with the one-on-one mentorship, a lot of the youth just want more of that.
That's true, yeah.
They just want more of the work that we do. And so it's really building that confidence through action and holding them accountable.
Yeah, there's a lot of action steps and like heart work every single week in mentorship and accountability that happens different than in a group session.
Yeah. What is the difference between, besides the obvious, but maybe like a solid friendship and a mentor?
Well, I would say a solid friendship has a lot of serve and return based on very raw discussion. And I feel like a mentorship is more of like building self-awareness for you to be able to answer your own questions because you have all the answers inside of you, versus, it's easy for a mentor to be able to give. We don't give advice, but we experience share. Whereas friendships might give advice and might, there's definitely things in our mentorship groups that there's no need for kids or the youth or women that we're working with to really know about us, but we could easily share an experience, but we're not going to give an advice.
Yeah.
Right.
And mentorship is really guiding them back to their truth, because they know, everyone knows it's in there, but it's just asking those questions that are going to lead them closer and closer, because they bring themselves to it. It's just asking them those questions and getting them to do those actions that are going to lead them to it.
Which is way better than being told, right? You need to come to these conclusions, these findings, these learnings, whatever they may be, on your own.
Yeah, it's like commitments back to yourself. What's your commitment to yourself this week, and how are you going to hold yourself accountable? And if you don't, then what's going to happen? In some kids, it's going to be nothing, and that's exactly what they need to be easy on themselves. And other kids, it might be like, oh, I'm gonna call you and tell on myself, or whatever it is, right? So it just depends on and that's actually the beauty of one-on-one mentorship, is a very individualized versus group facilitation. Group facilitation really is a talent, to be honest, like leaning into making sure that everyone has the opportunity to be able to speak, to be able to be seen, heard.
Is there an ideal number of individuals per group in order to ensure, or maybe not ensure, but get it as close as possible to ensuring that everybody is heard and recognized?
Love 8, no more than 14.
Yeah.
And it also depends on the group.
It depends
to be
on
honest.
what we're doing too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time we come to this space and we celebrate and we party, and it's more light and fluffy. So when we're getting down to the hard work, it's different. That's when you really need those smaller groups, so that everyone has that opportunity to be seen and heard.
And I think it depends. If we have a newer facilitator, a facilitator that's been here for a long time, if you have a group of girls who have been together for a few years, or if there's like newer people to our community, we're real, honestly, we would look at our numbers, we look at our names, and we decide. We know, like, okay, we're going to stop, the wait list starts here, or this class has enough in it.
Yep. Or truthfully, it can be like, oh, okay, maybe that was a little bit too many kids. Let's tone it down, or let's add some more. It's always different.
It's a feeling thing.
It's a feeling.
Just reflecting on, group experiences and especially in the vulnerability space, where this is a space where you need to be vulnerable so that everybody can grow. You need to be, give everybody enough time so they can feel heard and that sort of thing. But there's always the risk of a bad apple, if you will, somebody who maybe doesn't fit into the group. Is that something that you've ever experienced, and how do you handle that? Or do you think maybe just based on your programs that they just kind of self-weed themselves out, or what does that look like?
No. I don't know how do I answer that. I don't know if we've really had that, to be honest. I wouldn't say, I feel like I also don't want to say maybe it's a challenge for us, but I feel like it's an opportunity. That's what it is. It's an opportunity to be able to understand what's happening. Why is this happening? Where do they need more support? What is the barrier for them to show up? What is the barrier for them to be able to cooperate in these sort of ways? And ultimately, it's usually something that's happening in their life, or that they haven't had the full opportunity to be seen and heard, honestly.
And they're not.
Yeah, and they're not used to vulnerability, or they haven't been able to talk openly about things in their life. And honestly,
takes time.
The agreements that are set into this space, if you've had anyone who's been sitting with you and who's been here for over a year, they will likely go up to you and say, hey, what do you need? So it's a really special place when those relationships are formed.
And they form.
Yeah, and sometimes people do weed themselves out of our programs. That just happens. And sometimes they come back.
Yeah. We're always like, you guys know where we're at.
Yeah.
We'll be here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What can parents do better to, maybe, I'll leave that open-ended.
Listen.
Actively listen. Ask. Not why. Ask what. Yeah. I would say also less giving advice and more asking what they need. And whatever it is that they need, if they can provide that, not asking what they need without a follow through. I think that's really important, is that we often say, hey, how can I support you? But the answer is something that we're unable to do. So I can support you in these ways. Which one works for you? Setting our kids up for success. I think is really important as well. Putting our phones down.
That's just a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
I think too, validating what your child is feeling, whether you agree with it or not. Hey, I can see you're feeling this way right now. That must be really hard.
Celebrating them.
Celebrating them.
Even the smallest wins. I feel like it's so important for our neurons to be fired in celebration versus in failure. It's really easy and not only celebrating their performance, because it's really easy for us and for kids, like all people actually, to be able to relate if they're a good human based on if they performed well. And when we're not performing well, we often feel like we're not a good person, we're unlovable, we're not worthy. So the more that we can celebrate our kids, whether or not they're performing in grades or in sport, then it helps them understand that they're a good person and they're lovable, even if they're not doing well in something. And that's like the biggest thing is that we hear when kids say like, oh, I don't think my parents like me, because ultimately they're not being celebrated in anything that they're not performing in. And it's usually when they're not doing well in something, like if they're having struggles in school or they didn't make a team, they can feel very unlovable. So I think the biggest thing is to celebrate your kids no matter what. The smallest wins.
Just for who they are, not for what they do.
Yeah.
Does that translate into friendships as well? Like, we're talking specifically about the parent to kid relationship, but how does that translate?
Friendships are interesting for youth.
Yeah, that's something that comes up a lot in our classes, trying to navigate healthy friendships and what that looks like and how to show up for your friends and how should your friends be showing up for you.
And who are you choosing as a friend? Are you choosing your friends because of the way they look and the way they're performing? Or are you choosing your friends because you actually have interests with them? And are you changing your interests based on your friends' interests and losing who you are? Because I feel like that happens a lot, especially, in the junior high years, the hardest years for everybody.
So hard.
Yeah.
Foundational.
Yeah.
What does success look like to you?
Okay, well, success for like Orenda? Success for Orenda would be definitely being in more schools, reaching a wider range of youth, offering all of our programs for free or at least on a scale. Being able to offer our services in like youth hubs and different organizations. Yeah, and success would be our teachers thriving, not feeling burnt out, really enjoying what they're doing and teaching.
And being able to support them and empower them and keep them inspired and connected too. Yeah.
Do the teachers often, how do you go about finding, we've talked a little bit about this before, but how do you go about finding the teachers?
Well, we typically offer a teacher training every single year, and we have an application process that the teachers have to fill out. It's like a questionnaire, and usually there's a few questions that, right away we're like, what would you do with this in community? What would you have told your younger self? Those sort of things. And then we go through the application form, and we usually pick about 8 to 12 teachers a year to join us for the teacher training. And not all the teachers come and teach in the Orenda space. Some are coaches, some are teachers. And they take this work back and use it just with their sport teams or with their own kids. Some parents just
and
take
some
it.
are just parents.
Not just, but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because everything that you do sounds like, it applies to everybody, right? Everybody needs the service that you're offering right now. And
we know.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that's carried outside of Orenda, right? Like people have unique experiences at Orenda and hope to kind of carry that outside of that. I saw on your website, it said be who you needed when you were younger.
Yes.
Where did that come from?
Well, I know in my case, I'm just trying to be who I needed when I was younger. And not to, I have very supportive, loving parents. Like what Jamie was speaking to before, my family is very grounded, very supportive. I know they're there for me, but just, maybe having those healthy attachments with some other healthy adults that can see and hear me in a different way and help guide me through the things that I was navigating at the time. It's very powerful.
To those who might be listening, who maybe are experiencing or had similar situations to yourself with the bullying, what would you tell that person, and how can they take control of their situation?
I think it's really just staying grounded in who you are. Get to know yourself. We're just so, there's so much love out there, and there's so many people that are surrounding you that love you, but for some reason that negativity bias, we focus on the negative. And there are people out there that will support you and love you for who you are and accept you. And those communities and those people are out there. So it's finding them and knowing yourself and knowing what makes you feel joy and love, and just reaching for that positivity that is out there, because it's there. But we block a lot of it because we're so focused on what's not there.
And when you're bullied, it has nothing to do with you.
Right.
It has everything
exactly
to do with
right.
the person who's bullying.
Right. And
Yeah.
like coming back to that, I mean, it's hard to think that in the moment, but it's like, hey, maybe come to Orenda.
All bullies welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe as kind of on the flip side, as an individual who may be like a peer or a bystander or something like that to this, maybe a friend of the individual that's being bullied, how can they support the other individual?
Well, like almost listening. Almost kind of what we talked about with the parents supporting the kids. It's basically just humans supporting humans.
Not falling into groupthink, thinking for yourself, making sure that, that it's okay to take a stand for your friend. It doesn't mean that you're going to be bullied as well. We know that it's really important to stand by people and it doesn't have to be so obvious. You can say things like, hey, that's not cool. Simple things can really help and actually validate your friend that you're moving into. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I taught my kids that, and that was my kids at school will run into somebody who's not treating them very well, and they, I don't know if it's a great thing, but they've been coached to be like, hey, everything okay at home? Usually the bullying stops pretty fast, because that's not a question that somebody wants to be asked, especially when you're in grade 5, right? It can be like, hey, how do you know? And usually something will stop, and hopefully they can be like, perhaps a relationship can be formed, or they can just feel safe, because that's the priority, is to feel safe at school anyway. Mm-hmm. Well, everywhere. But. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So, what's next? What's next for Orenda Society?
More growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we sat down this year with our strat plan, which was really exciting for us. And right now we are currently engaged in a curriculum building team. So we're looking at building our curriculum for our classes and to expand into rural Alberta to have a stronger foundation. But not only that, we're going to be pushing to get into schools now. Yep. And we have an amazing team that is full of educators, psychologists who are sitting with us to build this curriculum to bring into schools. So, and then finding the funding so that, we can jump over the barrier of funding that schools have to be able to provide really great facilitators to work with kids and create that accessibility so they don't have to pay for programming and they don't have to find transportation to get here. Yeah.
We hear over and over and over how schools want this programming and need this programming. Mm-hmm. Yet, we're not in schools.
Mm-hmm. And then reaching other communities, being a little bit broader, more in the Calgary area. Mm-hmm. And as well, still running our women's immersions. Those are vital for our programming, not only for the women that land in the space, but the give back, because all of the proceeds go back into our programming for the year. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's going back to that kind of full circle mentality, right? It's And these partnerships, so you talk about schools, are there other partnerships that you are seeking or kind of actively have? Where your services are needed, obviously?
Well, right now we don't have too many partnerships. We do work a lot with the ringette associations and hockey teams. Those sort of things are pivotal for us, as well as some corporate organizations or corporate companies we go into once a year. I wouldn't say they're partnerships entirely, but we don't I think that's something that will happen within the growth of Orenda as well, as building more partnerships.
Yes, within community. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Is there any one maybe story that you're able or willing to share that kind of sticks out as like maybe a success story of Orenda, or something that maybe you remind yourself, this is why we do what we do?
Yeah, there's a few. So.
Gosh, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'll tell one. I'll tell like a full circle one, a pretty obvious one.
Okay, do it.
So we had a young girl come in grade 6, and this was in a pivotal time when when we had moved from Empower Mind to being Orenda. Not only that, is that her mom made her come into the program. Her mom actually, bribed her, I think with money or like food or something. And at the time, we were supposed to be in this building, but the build went longer than it needed than expected, as per usual. So we actually use the owner's house, Gina's house, to run our program. Like I said, we were in all different community centers. So not only is this young girl not wanting to come to class, but she also now has to go sit in somebody's basement and be vulnerable and open to all of these discussions that she's really not willing to do. So she came to the first class, and at the end of the class, I asked her, how was class? And she said it was okay. And I said, okay, well, we made an agreement that you would have 2 more classes. And she said, I will be back for 2 more classes. So at the end of the third class, it's a strategic thing that I don't even ask at the third class how it was. I just let it be. I'm not ready for the answer. So she came back to the class. We had moved into this beautiful space. And fast forward years later, this young person was definitely a people pleaser, did not have the confidence to I would say like step into a gym, to work out, to say no to friends, to really create spaces for herself, any of those sort of things, to even navigate some things that were happening in her family. She graduated in our program, came every year to every single session, became an ambassador, took the teacher training, is now a teacher. She broke records for Olympic lifting this year, and she's going into her 2nd year of psychology. So yeah, so pretty dynamic. And to top it off, all of her family members have been part of Orenda and are vital key members of our community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah.
It's a good reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So yeah, that's an easy one.
That was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful though.
Yeah.
Where can we send people to follow along Orenda?
Well, website, Instagram.
Yep. Our website, orendasociety.ca, and our Instagram, Orenda Society. Everything goes on there. Yeah.
That's really it. We haven't hit TikTok yet. Don't think we're going to.
Everyone says we should, but we feel scared.
I like it. You could do some pretty cool content on there.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it's happening. I don't know. We have a big marketing meeting tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie and Lisa, thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you for the work that you're doing. It's something that's needed, and it's it's getting the word out there, and hopefully some funding as well. But the work that you're doing is incredible, and the world needs more of it.
Thank you.
We think so too.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you.
Thanks.